to the top left is our Protoss player. Once again for Team MVP, it is Vampire. Up 1 game against his opponent already. Well played on the last map on Neo Planet S. And starting at the bottom right, we have a Zerg opponent. It is Crazy for KT.
Crazy indeed. That last game was, in fact, quite crazy. I was really surprised with the results of that. I mean, I didn't think that Vampire was going to be held 100%, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a fair fight. That was kind of a walkover there.
The problem for him, of course, was the +1 attack upgrades. He didn't have armor yet, but still, with better infestor control, he could have put on a decent fight.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Crazy knows this too. He looks at this as like, okay, if I hit my second fungal and the sentries are gone, then I have a fighting chance to defeat this, or at least to push it back and buy myself some time to get the additional infestors out. And he also had the Roach Burn. He never really utilized it. He only went into Zerglings. But this is one of those games where you look at it afterwards and you're like, okay, messed up my control a little bit. Was not should have gone better for me. Let's just go into game number 2 and try to do it a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. You know, don't lose your cool, but we talked about this already. He's got a lot of experience, not only in StarCraft 2, but in StarCraft 1 as well, so he knows how to handle a situation like this being down in a series. Goes pool first here, does not want to get canned at his natural. He's learned that much already as a Kesper player.
Yeah, well, there are certain maps where you can still go for the hatch first, but usually you're a lot safer if you go into the spawning pool. This is what Zergs do when they want to be safe, and if you're down 1 map already, yeah, you can think like, well, I want to be super greedy, but against a Protoss that has tendency to scout, you shouldn't do that. You can do that against Parting.
Yeah.
On certain maps, Parting just refuses to send a drone scout farther than 1 Xel'Naga watchtower out of his base. So against Parting, you can get away with it. I feel against an opponent like Vampire, you have to be a little bit more cautious.
Very true. I mean, I would never want to hatch first against somebody who always probe scouts on the second game in the series where I'm already down. That's just too risky. This is also, just to add more to the fire here, it's the first day of Code A for them. They could potentially find themselves in Code B if they lose this series. So for Vampire, this would be pretty terrible, but he's going to play in GSL coming up. And for Crazy, this is like his first moment in Code A. He's got to make a good showing here.
I mean, this is like the most important game for them. If you pass the first round of Code A, you can relax it a little bit because, you know, yeah, I want to go, you want to go into Code S right away. But if you then lose in round 2 or round 3, you still have the up and down. So, of course, you're going to prepare for all these matches, but the first one is the most important one. Your life, not only for this season, but also for the next season, hangs in the balance here.
Yeah, very true. This cannon will finish, and he'll cancel that pylon most likely. He just wants to make sure that no things get into his main while he's in this very vulnerable moment. When he goes for it, the gate, and pylon should be canceled.
Yeah, we had a really early third base for Crazy, so getting it out there before the 4-minute mark, putting down another hatchery. And I'm really interested to see how he's going to approach this map. On a map like Belcher Vestige, from Protoss player's perspective, what we see very often is an opening with the Stargates. We have seen Immortal Push on this map. It can be very strong, but it's not as easy to pull it off as on other maps. So Stargate, really popular here. Opening with Phoenixes, and then you can transition either into a hero-esque attack with Immortals. You can go into the late game, take your third base. It all depends on how well you micro your Phoenixes and how much damage you do with them.
Yeah. It's really important, and to keep them alive.
Yeah.
So if you go in there, you do some damage, then you lose your Phoenixes, you don't have the ability to pick up Infestors later, just to control Overlords, even pick up drones later on. In the mid-game, we've seen players just go in when the Zerg's not expecting it anymore and kill a bunch of drones.
And I really want to see what Vampire is going to do. Will we see the Stargate, or will he change things up a little bit on this map? For Crazy at this point, Vampire actually going into the robotics, so we might see an Immortal Push once again.
Yep, a 4+1 as well.
Yep, exactly. The timing here lends itself to another Immortal Push. He was successful with it on map number 1.
One of his gases only has 2 probes in it, so... Oh, 2 of his gases, in fact. I think this is intentional.
Naniwa style.
Yeah, it's like... But one is at the natural, one's in the main, so... This gives him a little bit different of a balanced economy, gets a slightly better mineral income.
I'm really interested to see what Crazy is going to do. Right now he's a little bit supply blocked, but with the lava mechanics that shouldn't be too big of an issue for him later on. +1 attack has been started for Vampire, going to be scouted by Crazy very soon, so he's not going to suspect too much. But the question remains, will Crazy be able to set up his defense?
Yeah, I think he's going to go Immortal first this time. No, he gets an Observer. He had just enough gas to make it Immortal, so everything was lining up the opposite of what I expected. I think he's just going to add all the gates, and we're going to see the exact same thing again.
The thing is, if you show the Observer, your opponent knows, okay, you have the robotics, but he might also think you're not going for an Immortal push because if you do it like parting style, you go for the Immortal right away.
That's exactly why I thought he was going to use the Observer to kill the Overlord last game, but now he's making a second Observer, so he's adding a Twilight Council now as well.
Yeah, he's changing things quite a bit here. So we... Crazy once again supply blocked. That double Overlord on the way, so that's going to be fine. The tag to layer has already been started. But for Vampire, this is going to be different. Right now we have him with the Robo. We go into the Twilight Council, so it looks more like he wants to take a third base. Which with this opening, I haven't seen it too much on this map. Usually when you go for the third, I see most Protoss players go into the Stargate tag that we mentioned earlier. But let's see what Vampire is going to do. He can still pull off a bit of pressure with the Warp Prism if he wants to, but from how he approaches this, it looks more like he's just trying to defend, and there's the third base as suspected. Blink will follow fairly soon, and we have Immortal #1 already in the production queue.
Yeah, he's getting that Immortal out. Just wants to be having essentially a catch-all build against what the Zerg is doing. With the new rocks in the third year, it's much easier to defend. I just feel like this type of build is so rare these days, but people are really starting to figure out how to make it work.
He really changed his style, though, if you think about it. Game #1 was a very, very aggressive approach, and now he's going 180 degrees and being very defensive, trying to turtle it up and go into the macro game. So, for Crazy, this leaves him a little bit more wiggle room, and the question is, will he see that? He went up to 63 drones this time, and is actually going up into up to a 65 now. So he has a very, very strong economy on 3 bases. He did not cut his drone production as he did in game #1. And now with all those Zerglings that he's getting, with a +1/+1 on its way, he has a very strong force here. And he catches all the sentries!
Wow. This is terrible for Vampire. I can't believe he let this happen. And even after the Lings were there, he hesitated for a few seconds. He's not only losing his sentries, he's losing his entire army.
This is nearly game. I mean, we can't call it GG here right now, but this is such a huge advantage for Crazy.
This gives him the perfect opportunity to hit with the timing with Infestors, a bunch of Lings, and Infested Terrans.
That was 500 gas right there. 5 sentries gone. Boom, poof. And now
he has to take a 4th instead.
He has to make a choice. Well, the thing is, Crazy can. He has the resources to do it with the drone count that I mentioned earlier. So +1/+1 is going to hit, but now there are not going to be any force fields, and this is going to be a big problem, because if Vampire now commits a lot of gas into additional sentries, then he can't get his tech up, and there we go. Here comes the run by. No sentries. This is exactly why those Zerglings for Crazies, they will do so much damage.
Yeah, he didn't have a Zealot Warping either. Now he's losing probes. He's losing a ton of mining time. He's going to lose this Immortal in the main base. It's going to be close, actually. He barely loses the Immortal.
Yeah, the Immortal dies, and this is so much mining time lost, so much Harvesters killed. 7 already, and just with a few Lings.
Yeah, he could even get them away.
There's still no mining in the main base.
Yeah, he's going to kill these Zealots, and he may go for the Immortal as well. Another Ling run by comes down. He's just using those extra Lings, and the Infestors are walking across the map as well. They could do some serious damage at that third base. He could fungal the probes. There's nothing there to stop him.
Also, look at that Hive timing. He goes into Hive at roughly 11 minutes because he knows he can. He has the 4th base coming up. We have a Spire +2/+2. Crazy is thinking, hey, this is Christmas. I must have been a good boy in the last year.
Yeah. Nice trap on the Infestor, but he gets all of its fungals off. And the Zealots are heavily damaged here.
Yeah, and he gets another one. No.
He just decides to back off. I think this is the safe choice. There's enough sentries here to trap him now.
He could go into Needlelist right now before he does anything else if he wanted to. And another run by into the main base. Vampire is falling apart here. Yes, the supply is still fairly even, guys. So that's definitely true. But look at the tech. Hive nearly completed, Robotics Bay just started, we have such a bank for Crazy, and Lings everywhere. Yeah. Vampire is struggling so much.
He loses his power of not only the gateways but the robotics as well. He will lose his Immortal if Crazy targets him down. Barely saves it, as well as the Zealots. There's a lot of low hit point units here. The fungals could change. And you know, Crazy is not trading cost efficiently, but he has a 4th base. Like you said, he has that crazy gas bank. No pun intended. Greater Spire is started. 2/2 is on the way. Vampire is still mining. Well, at first he was mining from 2 probes of that gas for most of the time. I wanted to mention that earlier. He never put a 3rd one, and now he has 4 in there. So,
what do you want to do when you're a Protoss player? You wanted to hit a timing pre-Broodlord, and Crazy is now going into Greater Spire. Vampire, what does he have to hit this timing? Like
a
nothing.
bunch of weak zealots that aren't going
Exactly.
to accomplish anything.
Zealots with half HP and recharging shields, that's all that he's got. And the big problem is that Vampire is Crazy is already going into +2/+2 Adrenal Glands. He doesn't skip on the upgrade. He's going into a few Corruptors for his Broodlords before Vampire has the first Colossus out.
Exactly. He's going to have Corruptors, so there's no way that Vampire can even move out and hope to accomplish anything here. 2-2 is insanely ahead for Crazy. And I don't even think he will need the Corruptors for the Colossi, because like you said, he could just make Broodlords with them before the first Colossus is out. Finally a good defense here from Vampire against the first Ling run by, but the second one could target down the Nexus. He goes for it. He almost has Adrenal Glands. He's going to have +2 for these Lings before the Nexus is defended. Where are the force fields? He's actually got his sentries bunched up a little bit at the back, and those force fields don't even hit.
Their force fields were horrible.
Yeah, those were terrible.
They didn't accomplish anything. They actually hit the space, they hit the area where there were no Zerglings.
You like push the Zerglings closer to the Nexus.
Yeah.
5 Broodlords on the way here, and you know, this game has just gotten out of hand.
This game was basically decided when those sentries died. That was the moment in time when Crazy knew, okay, I killed so much right now. His gas is gone. His ability to force field my Lings out is gone. If I use this, if I actually do something about it now, I can win the game right now.
It just snowballs, you know? You lose map control, then there's Lings run into your main because you don't have your Zealot wall set up, and then things get worse and worse, and this Colossus is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a little bit lost. It's a very confused Colossus, and a very dead Colossus too.
Nice might be even controlled his Brewlings to make sure he can close the gap on that. And this is horrible. He's got no idea of an inkling of any way to stop these Broodlords while he's long distance mining from his remaking third Nexus.
Here we go, the Lings, the Broodlords. How many Stalkers do we have? I don't even want to look. 16. That's actually a fair amount. And they blink in, get the vision on the high ground,
the Fungals, and you just can't get in there over these trees.
Now, look at this bank that Crazy still has. He's going into +3/+3. I don't even want to talk about the upgrades of the Protoss player because it's just too intimidating to see what
I think he has 1-1.
He has
2-1.
He has 2-1. That's actually not as bad as I thought. I didn't see the arm upgrade there. But it doesn't matter.
Exactly. The Broodlords, maybe he takes them out here, but he's losing every single one of his Immortals. More and more Lings stream in here, and the bank, as you mentioned before, is just too much. He's making 5 more Broodlords, 68 Lings, 3-3's about to finish.
Those Stalkers blinked into a good spot to take down the Broodlords, but at the same time they were trapped, and the Zerglings, they took advantage of it.
Those Broodlords!
And hey,
he doesn't even need
who's there?
He doesn't even need support for these.
This is brutal.
GG. At the point of that game, the Lings were actually a hindrance to the Broodlords because the Broodlings couldn't fight with the Lings blocking them.
Yeah, the Broodlings and Zerglings were fighting for
they want to get the kills,
battle time.
Yeah, they want to get the experience points.
This is Let's just call it like it is. Early on, one mistake, didn't see the Lings run in, all the sentries get surrounded, he loses all the gas, has to delay his tech, has to get additional sentries in, loses his ability to force field. Even Crazy doesn't give him the time to recover, takes advantage of the situation, and therefore Vampire is dead.
Yeah, Vampire, even if he plays the perfect game after that situation, there's no way for him to recover really as long as Crazy doesn't make massive mistakes.
Exactly, that's a good point. If Crazy makes mistakes and gives him enough time to recover, then Vampire comes back into the game. But Crazy didn't do that.
If he just sat back and didn't attack, for example, try to take the fourth and tech rapidly, Vampire could have secured his tech just as quickly and been able to maybe pressure a little bit on the map, but Crazy never gave him a chance.
Yeah. That's exactly true. Crazy is a player who sees an opportunity and he takes it. He does not give Vampire the chance to recover. And now we are going into map number 3. This is like the situation that we are hoping for. Seeing the third map, it's going to be a kill in flats. We're heading into the game right now, so let's get the party started, guys. Game 3 at the GSL Code A, the first round. It's Vampire versus Crazy. And we are on a kill on flats with our Protoss to the top left. Vampire with an